All right, we've got a. Are you ready? Okay. Got a pretty lengthy work session and council meeting, so let's quickly get started. Welcome to the 4 p.m. joint work session of November 18th, 2025. Please note that all council members are here. However, Councilmember Myers is maybe late, and then I haven't heard from Councilmember Chiburka, so hopefully she'll be coming in. We have a really pretty busy schedule as far as our council meeting. We have the 5:50 Board of Canvasser meeting. Janine noted that we might want to make sure that we eat because it might be a long night. There are a few things. Any questions about our meeting coming up? All right, nothing. You don't need me to go through them, do you? Nope. Okay. All right. Go ahead. You gotta turn it on the side. Yeah.
We have received a few comments on the Harrison Boulevard station area plans, and I don't know if you want to have any additional discussion about that or hear about them. I think most of them were forwarded to you. So,
any comments around that? I know, Dave, you responded to a couple of them, and so I appreciate that.
Or if we ought to just have someone just tell how to get to the information, you know, that might do it.
It's on the side, Dave. Our mics aren't on yet, so.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot about it. There was one of the neighborhood's Facebook pages did have kind of a long posting about it in opposition, but just some engagement around the whole thing. I think it's just a lot of I think the notices kind of spur people, and they're kind of taken aback by it because it didn't seem like anybody really understood that this has been going on for a couple of years. But I didn't get a lot of, after I responded with some information and some links and that sort of thing, as I did with that email, it quieted down. So we may see some folks here this evening and we can address them in that meeting. And I had a little conversation with Brandon yesterday too about clarifying some of this. There is no zoning change in any of this. It's just proposed future land use being described for the purposes of fulfilling the state's requirement.
Okay. And a lot of what isn't in our control around the Weber State is not in, I mean, it's not in our control of what they can and cannot do with their land.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we can jump right into it. We have the agenda review for the, or that's me. The sunset report for the Citizens Advisory Committee, and we have Jeremy Peterson here. So please come up. It is not a hot seat. It is a welcome seat.
Pre-warmed?
Pre-warmed. Exactly.
Thanks. I've got like 10 slides, so it's.
green.
during delays, we make the presenter sing, so feel free.
Oh, good. Ave Maria, is everyone on board on that? Yeah. Anyone know any good jokes, maybe we tell?
Not that I can tell here.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's the public meeting, serious, please. Yeah, the last time I presented this was 5 years ago via Zoom, I think. And
Middle of COVID.
in the middle of, yeah, that's kind of a big blank in memory
Right.
at that time. I don't remember much about that.
All right.
Okay, we're ready?
It's yours.
All right. Let me make sure I've got access here. Okay. Well, so I'm here to present basically just a very brief overview of what community planning has done in the Citizens Advisory Committee role in overseeing the HUD grants and the disbursement of federal monies and city monies in the city programs. So I'm Jeremy Peterson. I'm the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I've played that role for quite some time. We've had a rotating cast of characters come through our committee, and I'm looking at the latest roster here, and about half of them have been swapped out or will be swapped out here soon. We've got Tim Price, Laura Lopez, who I think was with us for like 5 minutes, Ben Hughes, MJ Munger, Rick Southwick, Mitchell, and Amanda. So quite a few of these names are changing, and there will be new members of the committee coming up here very soon. So the role of our committee is to be a witness to what the city is doing with these funds, and to be a kind of a source of feedback, a sounding board. We evaluate what's happening with the resources. We review regularly the city's HUD plan, their budgets, the development of the programs as far as what emphases are, focuses are, target areas geographically speaking in the neighborhood, and then regulatory compliance. A lot of times we'll have emergency meetings where an amendment will have to be made, and we need to come in to ratify or oversee the budget changes that happen as the city adapts and adjusts to real-time events. And also, I guess most importantly, is that the federal government requires that we have a Citizens Advisory Committee, so we are here. This past 5 years, we oversaw about $21 million in expenditures. Again, the development of those plans and the projects, you'll see some pictures here. And I'm sure in some other presentations it's more in depth with the photos, but you'll see some of the things that have happened. And yes, obviously programs and targets. So periodically there will be reports that we have to review before they're submitted to the federal government. As, again, part of their requirement is that periodically we report what's happened and send that to them so that we can keep doing business. So during COVID, there was some special funds that came in, and those were allocated kind of on a special basis during that interesting time. So some of the things that happened with these projects, you've got infill housing, CHODO, which stands for Community Housing Development Organization. That's kind of a focus on low to moderate income housing. Quality Neighborhoods is another program, and then emergency home repair through home loans. With homeownership, there's the Own an Ogden program, that's down payment assistance, and then homebuyer education, which is also dovetails with that program. As far as community development goes, you've got the NRSA, which is Neighborhood Revitalization. I lost the S. The A is area. And then public improvements, infrastructure. And finally, with business development, there's job creation through small loans, the business center, information center, counseling, and the micro enterprise loans. Okay, so the way that the city affects these programs is through like purchase, rehab, resell. This has been a big component. It's a heavy lift for the city to do in improving the quality of the neighborhoods through housing stock improvement. Also, infill housing. Occasionally, there will be some vacant land that is obsolete, or maybe there's a higher and better use for a blighted area, and the city's been involved in projects in creating new housing there. Obviously, we've talked about owning Ogden with new homeowners, and then tenant-based rental assistance programs. This has been helping individuals who are unhoused get a roof over their head. Emergency home repair is the HELP program, and we'll go over some numbers here in a minute with that. And then we have our Choto and target area improvements. So, and then we talked about micro enterprise loans and business services. So as far as what we've accomplished, and Jeremy Smith he gets credit for helping oversee a lot of this. Is 24 homes renovated and sold. And this house that's on the left here, if you saw the before picture, absolutely amazing job on the exterior of this house. So they did a great job. 19 emergency home loans issued during this period. Almost 190 new homeowners with down payment assistance around Ogden participated. And then through infrastructure improvements, about almost 17,000 citizens have benefited from those improvements. 131 homeless folks have been housed, 38 micro enterprise loans issued, 11 small businesses assisted, and 108 homeowner loans for exterior. These are emergency exterior improvements. And so that is a quick rundown of the last 5 years. Questions, comments, concerns, queries, or worries?
Questions for Jeremy? This isn't on yet.
Good presentation.
No, thanks.
Well worth the wait.
Oh, good.
I just have a quick question. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I was looking that way, so I didn't see. Sorry. I was just going to ask, you said some of those people will be changing out. What's the process for getting new members? Can people apply, or how would they go about that?
So that's actually, the administration would probably have more details on that. I know that people can be, I believe, nominated and brought to the administration's attention, and then the administration would tap those individuals to serve. Sometimes it's hard to get people involved in these things, and so some people will volunteer themselves, but I know that we're always looking for good people.
Great question.
Jeremy, I just want to say thanks for being a great champion for inner city Ogden and that East Central neighborhood. Jeremy lives in that neighborhood. He's a proponent of building the infrastructure there and housing, and he's been a great realtor to encourage people to move back into inner city Ogden, and he does it himself. And there's he and a nice, beautiful contingency of homeowners in that area that you live in who are just determined that they're going to make the city beautiful and prosperous and a great place to live. And so we acknowledge that, particularly the work that you've done here. We know that Ogden City is behind you, and that Jeremy Smith and others have done a great job, but we appreciate your citizen participation and for guiding this group for the many years that you've done it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I'll use that in my next promotional video. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right. Well, next on the agenda is the, I don't know if it's Jeremy or Kathy. Oh, Kathy.
Now it's the line of work, right? Now
Yeah.
Hi.
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 I'm Kathy Fuentes, Community Development Division, and this is Jeremy Smith. All right, we're happy to have your time and attention today. The first thing we're going to discuss is our proposed Citizen Advisory Committee Sunset Ordinance change. So the CAC reviews our HUD plans as Jeremy. We're really grateful for Jeremy's help with the Citizen Advisory Committee. He really helps keep it running smoothly. So the CAC meets to review all of our HUD plans and make recommendations. The CAC provides input on our programs, funding, guidelines, our budgets. They fulfill our HUD requirement. One of the HUD requirements for engaging stakeholders in our determining the use of our HUD plans. This is an ongoing HUD requirement. So the proposed ordinance would be to eliminate a sunset provision since it's an ongoing ordinance or requirement by HUD. Any questions on that? That's really what the ordinance is asking, is to remove that sunset provision and nothing else.
So Kathy and Jeremy, usually the reason we have Jeremy Peterson here tonight is because we require a sunset report when the committee's sunsetting. If it's not sunsetting, when will we get the reports? How will we get the reports?
Well, our CAPER fulfills much of that reporting requirement. So if there's an additional requirement, we could meet that requirement. If that's something that the City Council would like, we could report from the Citizen Advisory Committee separately. It's basically the same information that you're going to see in our CAPER.
When we looked at that, it's really a way just to become a little more efficient with some of these meetings and keeping the committee just active and going and just having that, because we do, as long as we are receiving these federal funds, we will need to have this committee there. So it's not, that will never go away, but if it's a matter of getting the report, like Kathy said, that's really a redundant thing. You're going to see a presentation here in just a moment. It's going to feel very similar to the one you just saw. So to reduce some of that redundancy, we're making this proposal, and after consulting with the city's legal team, they made that suggestion as well.
I would say, if I might, that makes perfect sense to eliminate the sunset provision. I did like Jeremy Peterson making a presentation as the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I guess what was just going through my mind, as you were saying, you're going to see the same thing in the CAPER. Maybe rather than, since we're not going to have two, if you guys could just, I think there is some credibility given because of the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee helping to present. So if you could include them in your CAPER presentation, and you do that annually, right?
Right.
So I think that would be great. I think that sounds like a way to approach that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions?
And just to note, this actually is on the agenda tonight under the consent item for approval of this ordinance, as well as some committee appointments. So there will be a roll call vote because on the consent item because of the ordinance amendment.
Do we need to add a line that says we will have the chair of the committee present? Do you want that additional line in the ordinance somewhere?
If that's necessary, might be a good idea. Just so we don't forget we decided to do this.
I'm okay. You're the one that suggested it, so I'm asking you.
And the function of it is what I maybe am questioning in my mind. How it will.
Jeremy's reasonable.
Oh, yeah, I know, and that's why I'm saying, I'm
We'll
not
do
sure
it,
it's
yeah.
necessary we handcuffing to something.
No, and I think we can agree to that we don't necessarily need to formalize it, but just to show, yeah, which Jeremy we're talking. Yeah, both are, yeah. So we can agree to make sure we have some presentation or presence from CSE, and I think it worked great. It's nice to have somebody else up here talking about these things besides Kathy and I. So we would welcome that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe make note of it.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing no other questions, you can move on to the annual action plan.
Okay.
Amendment number 1.
Thank you. This is Kathy Fuentes again, and we are happy for your time to consider the 5-year consolidated plan and annual action plan for fiscal year 26, amendment number 1. Our agenda is to discuss an overview of what the 5-year consolidated plan is, the annual action plan for fiscal year 26 overview, the purpose of amendment number 1, and the proposed changes for the amendment, our citizen comments as of today, and our schedule. So the 5-year consolidated plan is the mechanism for entitlement funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, for 2 grants, the Community Development Block Grant and for the Home Investment Partnerships Grant, which we call the HOME Grant. The con plan outlines what the city plans to do with HUD funds for a 5-year period, and it requires citizen participation and outreach. And it's just important to note that if it's not specified in the con plan, then HUD funds cannot fund the activity. But an amendment can be used to significantly change programs, beneficiary budgets, or beneficiaries. Okay. The annual action plan is the implementation plan. So annual action plan fiscal year 26 is the first year of the 5-year consolidated plan. It's the implementation for that first year. Also serves as the application for HUD funding for the year for our 2 grants. It determines the programs and projects to be funded. It details the budget for the HUD budget for the year. It describes our goals for the use of HUD funds, and it also requires citizen participation in a 30-day public comment period. So the 5-year consolidated plan and the annual action plan for fiscal year 26 are a combined document. So it's always that way with HUD plans. The first year of the action plan is always going to be combined with the 5-year plan. So they're a combined document. So the amendment affects both, but there are no changes proposed to the 5-year strategy. It's just changes are for the fiscal year action plan, annual action plan fiscal year 26. So the purpose of the annual action plan amendment is to make changes to the Ogden program, funding allocation for the use of our home community housing development organization, our CHOTO funds, to add a target area public improvements project. This is a CDBG CV CARES Act funded carryover project from last year. It updates our grant policies for the period of affordability. It's a new rule from HUD, updated rule, and it updates our budget for the year. So the annual action plan one change would be the Ogden program change to increase our budget to $600,000. That's increasing $250,000 home is currently budgeted to $500,000 of home funds and $100,000 of home match. There's no change there. So that will bring our budget to $600,000 for Ogden, and it'll increase our goals to 50 down payment assistance loans for the year. So where we're at the end of October, we had 20 low to moderate income home buyers receiving $10,000 grants. $10,000 deferred payment loans, and 2 teachers receiving $15,000 deferred payment down payment assistance loans. So the change in the Ogden is just increasing the budget with the home funds. So the home CHOTO fund reallocation, so the home grant requires that 15% of that grant be set aside for a nonprofit housing corporation, which is called the CHOTO, the Community Housing Development Organization. So an infill project has been identified. It's a single family new home construction at 2217 Madison. And the home CHOTO funds will be reallocated from the housing purchase rehab resale to this infill housing project. That budget is $158,520 of our home grant. So in January, HUD issued a new home rule. And I think the best way to explain this is just to use as an example. So when home funds are used in a project, such as down payment assistance, and the borrower does not stay in the home for the entire period of affordability, so the period of affordability is defined by HUD. So currently it was $15,000 or less. It's a 5-year period of affordability. If they don't stay in that home for 5 years, the money is returned to the city and is used for another down payment assistance loan. It cannot be used for admin. It would be used for another project. So now HUD is increasing that, saying if the project is giving direct assistance to a home buyer at 25,000 or less, it's a 5-year period of affordability. So it's reduced from 10 years to 5 years. That's what the new rule is stating. So it's a bit complicated, but this is the new rule published by HUD. So it will be implemented by us. The reason why this rule is in this amendment is because normally HUD rules are not actually defined in an action plan, but this rule is defined specifically in our action plan. So to make a change, we do an amendment. So that's why this is specific. This rule is coming up and not other rules. When the changes happen, like income, we just roll with it. But this is specified in our action plan, so that's why we're bringing it to our attention now. Okay, and we did receive CARES Act funding, and in fiscal year 25, funds were budgeted to assist businesses that were negatively impacted by the pandemic. We had a small business loan program and microenterprise assistance that received CDBG funding. So no new applications were received in fiscal year 25. They would have to be in relation to a business recovering from the COVID pandemic. So it's the further we get away, the harder the link has been. But in last fiscal year, in December, we reallocated our CDBG funding to a target area public improvements project to prepare for a future pandemic. So that already has been approved, but that was before our action, it was after our action plan was actually adopted. So this process right here is just to carry forward that project into this fiscal year. It's already ongoing and started, but it wasn't included in our action plan when we first submitted it. So we're just carrying this project forward, and this will be using all of our COVID money. It'll after this project. So these are the budget updates for the year. So our Own in Ogden program, the action plan has approved $350,000 budget. It's increasing by $250,000 of home grant, and that will be a $600,000 budget with 50 home buyers to be assisted. So that goal is increasing from 25 to 50. There are no changes to the emergency home repair program. Our CHODO, which is the Community Housing Development Organization, is just changing from a rehab to a infill project. No budget, a dollar amount change. So our housing purchase rehab resale program had a $2.9 million budget. We're increasing that by $748,000, and now we will have $3.7 million. And our goal is to complete 5 home renovations in the year. We have our HELP program. This is the only non-federal funds we're going to be including in this presentation. Our HELP program is $1.4 million. We're increasing that by $167,000, and that will bring that to $1.6 million. And our goal is to complete 30 home rehab loans for homeowners. Our home ARP allocation funding, this was the one-time grant to help with homelessness. Our budget is $846,000. We're increasing that by $140,000 to bring us to the new budget amount of $987,000. Our goal is to assist 15 homeless persons per year for 5 years. That was a minimum amount. We've definitely exceeded that every year, that amount, but that was our original plan. So the Target Area Public Improvements Project has a 0 budget in the action plan, and now we're requesting that new proposal would be to increase that by $500,000 of our CDBG CV funding, and that will assist over 15,000 people with the new sidewalk improvements. And then our admin budget is at $814,000. We're increasing that by $14,000. That will bring that to $829,000, and that's for program administration. So those are the proposed changes for community development. For business development, the small business loan program and the microenterprise program CDBG funding have no changes, but the CARES Act CDBG CV funding for job creation is zeroing out, and the microenterprise is zeroing out that $500,000 to fulfill for the Target Area Public Improvements Project. So those are the budget changes for the business development, and there's our one-page budget for the year. Okay.
Any questions for Kathy?
And then I have comments next.
I have 2 questions.
Mhm.
One, how do you track that period of affordability?
So we do direct assistance to home buyers, right? So we are using a loan agreement and a trust deed a promissory note, a trust deed that specifies that it's a loan due on sale. So we do not require people, they can sell their home at any time. The period of affordability is just a measure by HUD saying, did you actually help people for how long? You know, it's just a measure by HUD. So it doesn't affect what the homeowner can do. They can sell
Right.
their home at any
Right,
time.
right.
But we do track that because we have that trust deed on the property. So
Right.
if they were to sell the home, we get paid back. And then that triggers the period of affordability measure. Then
Yep.
we look at that.
I just wanted to understand how a sale before that 5-year period reimbursed the city for that money, and it sounds like it's recorded so that if it's sold at closing, it's gonna just.
Right, the title company contacts us for a
Okay.
payoff quote. Mhm.
And then the infill project for an affordable house at $158,000, is that the cost of the whole house?
No, that is our participation with Utah Nonprofit Housing Corp.
Okay,
So they have a project that they want to do, and we're helping them make it affordable by
making that
donating this
contribution.
158,000,
Okay.
this contribution.
All right, so what in the end, what will this house go on the open market then for sale and qualify an individual to take
Yeah.
up that residence?
Yeah, so that becomes a for sale owner occupant home. And so the funds that we contributed to, it's a loan agreement that we have with Utah Nonprofit. We actually recoup the costs, a prorated amount of those costs back to the city, which are then reinvested back into our housing program.
Okay,
They're just put back into that home fund that Kathy's just talking about. But yes, it's a for sale by home, for sale. We work with them to pick a realtor to list it just on the MLS, just like any other home, but it does have the income restrictions, just like our Ogden City Homes program has.
okay, thank you.
I had a question. On the home buyer assistance programs, you know, you listed a whole bunch, how much they will, you know, how much they get from the city.
Mhm.
What is an average amount of contribution that we will give to somebody? What?
Are you talking about the home exterior loan program?
Nope.
The down payment?
The owner
assistance?
Ogden, yeah.
So, yeah, it's 10,000 for any citizen. So you can apply, that's typically the loans that we give out.
That's the amount. Okay.
10,000 per applicant. There is a provision in there for school teachers, city employees to get a little
firefighters.
more. You can get
15,000.
15,000 there, and then public safety officers can get up to 20,000.
And we're not having any trouble finding enough people that want that.
No.
We're not.
Yeah, we actually had to pause it here about a month ago until we pass this annual action plan amendment so that we can redo the budget and get that.
We're going from 25 to 50 is gonna be, I assume then you will.
We
That-
did last year.
Yeah, that's typically what we do. We hit around 50 per year, and this is the process, right? We get it through about halfway through the year and come back with an amendment and reallocate that budget. And that's based on, we get a lot of that program income coming back in through the year. So we have to make that adjustment to do that. That's why we don't do it up front saying, let's just do 50, give us all the money for that, because we have to account for all that.
I wondered, I mean, this is just maybe a tongue-in-cheek comment, but since we're really not building houses for sale for income, I mean, what do these people buy? Seems like we're only building apartments these days.
Well, it may seem that way, but yeah, they are. They're still buying homes.
They're
I
still
mean,
finding homes, something to
they're
buy.
finding
Okay, great.
homes, and
That's what I wanted to make sure.
yeah, it is happening. I mean, and they do follow all the HUD income restrictions and eligibility, so they can't sell above a certain point and can't make above a certain amount. So
What was that amount last year?
the
In Ogden?
We completed 53 and it was around 500,000. Mhm. Well,
And that's
540,000, I think.
been
it was,
pretty
but-
consistent for the past few years.
Yep. I was wondering, I have seen, because I've looked at some of the listings, that we do have some condos available now in our community. Are any of these, eligible for that?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've done several owner Ogden loans to townhomes, condos.
Awesome.
Anything that offers owner occupancy is eligible for this.
Yeah, if you look on the Zillow or on the MLS now, there are quite a few properties now that have condos, which I was kind of surprised about because there was barriers, but I know there's been
Mhm.
some changes so that those barriers are getting lifted.
No problem with this program and that.
I have one follow-up question on the budget. I'm not fast enough adding numbers in my head to see how that all comes back together, other than I see some of the increases that you proposed to your budget. And I appreciate your explanation, Jeremy, that some of those come from income from sales of homes that we're receiving back again. But it also comes from the reallocation of some of those funds from the CARES Act and other places. That goes, you're just reallocating that into other areas in your budget.
We did increase the budget by 1.3 million, and most of that is increase in program income of 700,000 and about $500,000 of carryover. So when we did the initial budget, we thought we would spend that $500,000 before June 30th, but we didn't. Because, you know, we come to you like in March, actually with our action plan predicting where we're going to be on June 30th. So we expected to spend more money than we did. We did not. So we have like $500,000 of carryover more than we expected. So those are the new money coming in and increasing our budget.
Very good. Thank you.
Are any of these expense programs, or do any of them not come back as program income, or do they pretty much all eventually come back?
No, I think everything that we sell, so if we're looking at down payment assistance loans, those are deferred payment, the homes that we renovate and sell, all that comes back as program income. I mean, part of the program is that, you know, this isn't, this is an opportunity to make money. Most of these homes, you know, there are subsidies put in place, and that's intentional. That's how the CDBG funds are set up, so that we can do those deep renovations that are possible. But money that is recouped is reinvested, and that's why you see us come back here with this amendment, truing up those numbers.
Yeah.
So the only ones, I mean, saying that, so public improvements, that type of thing, when you see sidewalks and those type of improvements, those CB funds, you know, we don't sell our sidewalks, so that would just be money.
That would be.
Yeah, that is not recouped through program.
Is the entitlement funding pretty consistent, or is that?
It has been. I mean, it's of course a little more, there's some more uncertainty surrounding it in this recent year. Just it is a federal program and definitely had some attention drawn to it. We're cautiously optimistic it'll continue, and it has been secured for the foreseeable future. Beyond that, we cross our fingers and plug on.
Okay, and we do have, good, ready to go. All right, we do have some citizen comments. All of the comments are pretty positive. They will be summarized for you at the end of the 30-day public comment period. Just some really good comments about our programs. Okay. All right, this is just a slide to show you where our document is online. It is online and available. If you notice, there is a spot where it says make a comment. They can just click on, they can open the document, read it, and then click and make a comment. So, and we are using QR codes more often to click on that, and it opens up an email that will make a comment to the city. Okay, any other questions about the action plan amendment? Okay, and questions? Nope, looks like, okay, and we're in a 30-day public comment period until December 14th. On December 16th, we have tentatively scheduled to have the public hearing. Then we submit to HUD, and our fiscal year ends on June 30th. So, Brandon, do you have the other presentation?
Out of curiosity, when we submit that as far as going out for public comment, where do we do that? Just through our website?
Yeah, it is at this website. So we do post it. We actually publish a notice in the legal section of the newspaper, and it's online.
Great.
Would it make sense to put an informational article and a QR code in the new Ogden newspaper?
Absolutely. Yep. One more down. It was so close. There we go, that one. All right, thank you. This is Kathy Fuentes again, in Community Development Division. Okay, and now we will be discussing our consolidated annual performance evaluation report the CAPER for fiscal year 25. This fulfills our HUD requirements for reporting on the activities of our action plan, our CDBG and our home grants, and it was submitted to HUD in September. It outlines our expenditures, it summarizes our federally funded accomplishments, and has key interest items and required narratives. In total, we had received $2,677,234 in CDBG funding. That was money that we actually received. We expended $1,400,753, gave us a balance as of July 1 of $1,276,481. For the CDBG CV grant, this is the one-time CARES Act grant. Our available funding was $562,438. We expended $2,412. That gave us a balance of $560,026. So you can see we really weren't spending our money any longer on the business. Businesses were not applying for assistance. That's why we're requesting to move that in our action plan, that funding to the target area public improvements. So our home grant, we received $1,502,900. We expended $1,042,536, which gave us a balance of $460,364 of home grant. Our home ARP, which is also a one-time grant, was our funding for at the beginning of the year was $1,565,318. We expended $382,199, and that leaves us with a balance of $1,183,119. So in total, we received $6,307,890, and we expended $2,827,900, which gives us a HUD balance of $3,479,990. So that is just an overview of the grants. So for our programs, we expended $480,720 of home grant, and we assisted 53 home buyers with down payment assistance, and 3 were underway. For infill housing, we expended $994,004 of our home CHOTO funds, and we completed 1 project. That was a new home construction at 2809 Jackson. So our Quality Neighborhoods, which is our housing rehab program for HUD funds only, was $1,264,977, and that's a combination of CDBG and home grant. We completed 3 home renovations and had 6 home renovations underway. Emergency home repair, we expended $15,623 of CDBG grant. We completed 3 emergency home repair loans and had 1 underway at the end of the year. So that is loans to low-income homeowners that have emergency housing need. Our micro enterprise loan program expended $57,506 of CDBG and assisted 5 micro enterprise owners. Small business loan program, $81,110 of our CDBG, and we created or retained 13 full-time equivalent jobs, and there are 8 underway. So, and then our business recovery, which is the CDBG CV funding, expended $2,412 of our CDBG CV grant and completed 3 projects. These were businesses assisted with CDBG funding. Our tenant-based rental assistance program with supportive services expended $382,199 of our home HARP funding, and 42 households received assistance. That was 84 persons in the fiscal year receiving assistance. And then our Section 108 loan, $42,959 of CDBG went to our 108 loan payment. And administration, $406,391 of our CDBG and home for administration. So in total, we spent $2,827,900 of our HUD funds for the year. And then on a side note, not federally funded, but our health program expended $354,779 and assisted 27 households with home repairs loans. And that was housing fund and city funds outside of the action plan. Any questions? That is the CAPER presentation. Any questions on our accomplishments or for the year? Question?
About the help loan. You know, we've talked about it's maybe underfunded. You know, we could certainly help a lot more people. What was your recommendation with that? I mean, what is the need that we're not filling?
So we're running out of money.
Yeah, this is the one that's probably the most, that when I say we run out of money after a few months, this is the one that over the past couple of years has been the most in demand. And so we've been pursuing several different ways to increase that. We actually received some funds from public services that can address sewer and water. And that's been very helpful to address some of those situations, but they're restricted to just those type of repairs. We've been able to use those, but we're also in communication right now with the state and getting some, they have some proposed funds that were set up as a pilot program that assist with some of these legacy cities that are dealing with this type of thing. So Salt Lake and Ogden are being looked at as ones that this may be an eligible fit where we could increase that with those funds. And that's still in the works. We actually had a meeting this morning, call on that, trying to determine if we could get something going with that. So that's happening, and we're looking at other options as well, but always open to new ideas to try and have this available to more citizens. It's definitely needed.
So I assume that few of them go into default. I guess most of them get paid.
Yes.
Yeah, that actually has a really good track record.
I'm just trying to think, I have benefited from that. I in a full disclosure, and I was so grateful for it. And where it's not it is paying for itself. I mean, it's not costing the city to do this other than there's money out, right?
Right.
And so I just keep thinking maybe we ought to find some more money to put into this program to where it does fill a need somehow. And I'm not proposing where that might come from, but
Well, I think it started with like $1 million seed money from the city, and then we loan it out, and then we get that money back with interest
Right.
over time, but it's
Yeah.
not enough to.
Yeah, it doesn't keep up the demand for sure,
Yeah.
but it is, I mean, it's done well for what we've been allocated, but like Kathy's saying, there's demand, and we can definitely expand that. So yeah, we're looking at ways to do that, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about that.
I
in the
would
near
maybe
future.
support it, but
Awesome. Well,
Right.
we're glad to hear that.
I was gonna say I benefited too. Before I was a councilman, we rebuilt all the porches at my old house and a lot of work. I had a follow-up question too, just about the business loans. I know we talked a little bit about this before, but what's kind of the record of those businesses and their success in kind of staying afloat?
So Sarah Meese is no longer here to answer that question, but they are working on an analysis of that right now.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'd love to learn more
Yeah.
about
You mentioned water and sewer are some of the big expenses that you have with homeowners. Has there ever been any kind of a program explored where citizens could pay into a fund, kind of like an insurance fund, that would help them? Enbridge Gas does this, but I'm wondering if there's some kind of a service program that they could pay into to help them when the eventuality occurs in some of their older homes to
Yeah.
have a replacement of.
Yeah, there's
available through the city?
actually, there's an active program now, I think it's called Home Serve.
Yeah, I just
Quoting
did
that
it
right?
last week.
Yeah.
I'm
So it's exactly,
Yeah.
exactly what
And
we're talking
yeah,
about.
it's not
Through
city though.
Enbridge Grant,
Not a
right?
city program.
Yeah, you pay like at first I thought it was like insurance, but it's more like they'll just come out and do the service for you, and it's pretty affordable. You can do it for your water lines or your sewer lines, and so I do it for both. But it was before through Enbridge, and they're kind of changing it. But is it also listed on the city
I think
website or
new
anything?
programs.
Yeah,
There's
they're
two different
separate
ones, and I think
programs.
that the city one is better for city residents because of the distance that it covers.
Yeah.
So
So, and just to clarify, it's sponsored, or it's a partnership with the city. It's not a city
Yeah.
program
Yeah.
where it's city funded or anything, but it does act like an insurance policy. So it'll give you up to a certain amount if your sewer or your water goes out the lateral up to, that's the homeowner's responsibility. So that's exactly what you're talking about. It does provide for that. And I've talked to several people that have benefited from that.
But that's not anything offered through the city, just in partnership with the city.
Exactly.
Was it National League of Cities, I think, wasn't that? the
I think you
partnership?
can sign up through public services.
Yeah.
So just to throw something out there on this, when that came in our utility bill, we thought, shoot, the way we read it was it's gonna cover from your house to the street. And so we've been buying this policy for a couple of years. My neighbor across the street also bought it. And they had their sewer line rupture. They contacted Home Serve and they said, no, it's not. And they came out of their pocket with $15,000 to slip line, their sewer line back out to the street. I have then become alarmed and emailed Home Serve, and they have been unresponsive. In a telephone call, they were evasive. So if the city is kind of putting this forward as a partner that our citizenry might engage with, maybe there's a little homework that might be done. That's just one anecdotal experience, but
Interesting.
I am now nervous about whether or not that's actually a viable resource should my sewer line give out.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. So very interesting. That might be something that, we definitely take a look at.
Yeah, and that's all said without knowing specific, other than my neighbor bought the same policy, right? And this is what they ended up with. So it's all not firsthand with me. It's just one instance and then my follow-up experience with the company.
Well, whereas they're using the city's logo to
Mhm.
promote this, we have better get behind that.
Yeah.
Yep. That is not good news. I was
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, this
was
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I didn't have to use it for that extensive. They just came out because I had a problem and I fixed it, and then so I didn't have to pay anything. But yeah, I have not had, luckily, that kind of issue.
Yeah,
Kathy-
thanks for bringing that up.
I just have a quick question. So you said there's about go back a few slides, $3.4 million, three and a half.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we have a balance, a fund balance. Does that mean we have $3.5 million sitting in that fund balance in our bank account right now?
No, because when we receive entitlement grants, it is in a HUD, it's in the actual Department of Treasury, and we have to spend the money and then go in and report on the activity, put in all sorts of data and information about that activity, and then we get reimbursed. So the entitlement amount is not in the bank for the city, but the program income is money that is physically received. But that at the end of the year, that is actual program income. The budget includes forecasted program income too, but this is the balance. So it does include program income, but also entitlement money that's sitting in our HUD line of credit.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Justin, I think we went over this,
Oh,
but
we did.
yeah. Did you want to talk about the actual budget amendment?
Thank you, Chair. So the amount in the budget amendment ordinance is slightly different than the totals that Kathy just shared. And the only reason that is at the time that we adopted the final budget this year, there were a couple of adjustments that we made to the adopted budget that hadn't been reflected yet in the annual action plan. And so this reconciliation to what is in the budget versus what is now being amended will now be in line with the numbers that Kathy shared in her presentation. And so the budget amendment is a total increase of just over 1.2 million. And in working with community development, we were able to tie out everything to get everything in line so that it does reflect what the annual action plan does show. So I know there was a question from council staff about that why it didn't line up exactly, and that is why. So any questions on the budget opening portion of the annual action plan amendment?
Any questions? All right.
Quick and easy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for lining it up. All right. Any other questions on the paper or annual action plan or home loans? Okay, we'll move on. Next up is Brandon. Next up is Glenn Symes, so we can get our dinner.
I was just going to say, now's a good time to go grab your food.
I think it's working now. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we're excited to talk to you this evening about Zone Ogden. So we have some topics that we'd like to address with you as we prepare in moving forward, reviewing this with the Planning Commission and the City Council. So we would like to get your direction. And so we just want to provide some recommendations, and John Jansen from our consultant team is going to present to you tonight, and we would love to hear your thoughts and receive some guidance. So I'll turn the time over to John.
Hey, John, welcome.
Good to see you all again. Yeah, we are progressing. How's that? Matter of fact, we're pretty far along with the draft. Only really a few chapters left to go, and we keep coming up with issues as we're moving along that need some conversation. We've had a conversation with the Planning Commission about the ones that are here tonight, and wanted to see what the City Council thinks. So we have just a few. Let's go with that. And just to let you know, we're going to be back quite a bit in January. Probably do something similar, 5-ish issues to talk about each time. And some of those may be ones you throw at us, okay, that you just want to talk about. So just know that in January, you'll probably see at least myself a lot at these work sessions. So, okay, let's start with the first one, transitioning. So this is about once we get to the point where we're ready to adopt the new update of the code, the overhaul of all 4 different sections of the code. How do we actually implement that? There are different ways to do that. But first off, state law does require that we have a public hearing with the Planning Commission. Okay. Seem to recall there was an interest in noticing on all that. Looks like we're noticing to the entire world on that particular public hearing date. Because there's enough changes in the code that it's substance. It's not just technical changes. Certainly there's technical changes too. That are just state law changes over time that we had to take care of. But there's also some substance in there. So you're going to have a pretty big mail out, big public hearing. Hopefully we'll offset that with an open house before that to go over the chapters and try and get at issues with the public again.
Well, since we haven't updated it for 20 some years, I think we should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask a question too about the notice.
Sure.
Is it gonna still kind of look, I mean, are we gonna make it have some panache so that people will pay attention when it comes?
We talked about putting bulldozers on the front of the card.
Okay.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah. So, well, the ones that we get, you know, we get them, they come in routinely and they're almost camouflage because they all look the same, you know, and but this is a big deal. So I think we want to make sure people.
We can do that.
Pay attention, open it and read it before the actual date of the hearing, of the presentation.
Yeah. We will likely advertise the open house and the public hearing on the same card that people will get. And we do have people that can make it look interesting.
Yeah. So that would be really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll give that a whirl. Okay. We have been talking about doing some joint sessions with the Planning Commission before all that. Try and get at some of the issues, look at some of the chapters, what are the big issues in each chapter. And that I think is coming up after the January meetings with you all. And it's likely that some of those meetings in January will cover some of the same topics we might discuss with the Planning Commission too. But there are choices to make on how you actually adopt this. And let's take a peek at those. A few different ways. Are you familiar with the pending ordinance doctrine? Okay. Dave is, let's see, just a quick explanation. Yeah, it just means you got a draft, it's ready, but we're putting off adoption for a little while, but you do have to follow, if you're a developer coming in, making a request for a building permit, the new ordinance, okay? That's one option. A lot of cities do that where they're doing minor amendments, I would say. I don't think it's quite as common when you're doing the whole shoot and match. So, a lot of communities, they'll just adopt it and that's the date it's effective, okay? Another way though, and I think is maybe a little more flexible for everybody, is you adopt it, but you actually set the effective date later on, 3-month time period, a 6-month time period, something along that line. From a staff consultant standpoint, we actually like that kind of transition. But we would like to get your input, at least think about that over the next few months. So, any thoughts on?
I have questions.
Okay.
The relaxed would certainly, if there may be some parts of the code that somebody would say, man, I got to beat that deadline because I want to get my credit project in before the ordinance is fixed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're making drastic enough changes for some things that would cause that. Would you see we would?
So we've been talking about that. I in my mind, of course, I'm very much involved in the middle of this. It's a vast improvement over what you've had. Okay. Easier processing, easier to understand, those kinds of things. On the other hand, the one I think of right off the bat is the junkyards. We're not really saying you can do new junkyards anymore. So if you wanted to bring a junkyard before this thing is adopted, now's the time.
Hurry up, yeah.
But there's a couple more. We had some manufacturing uses in the commercial zones that maybe didn't belong there, so those have been pushed back to the industrial areas. Maybe Martin and Brandon have some other ones, but at the moment, those are the ones I'm thinking of that might cause some people some issues. But it's not a very big group. Yeah.
And then the pending ordinance on the aggressive length, the way we've used it currently is it just stops everything for 6 months. You know, you can't do that thing and while we're working on an ordinance kind of a thing,
Yeah.
you know. You're not talking about that.
Well, talking about a different wrinkle to that, how's that?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which would be, we have that draft together and we're all somewhat comfortable with it. And we're saying you got to use that, but it's not technically adopted yet. Want to clarify that, Barton? Yeah.
Yeah, under a pending ordinance, the project has to meet both the old and the new ordinance.
Yeah, okay.
Which in some cases is impossible.
Yeah. So again, we're really suggesting to you that relaxed is the way to go, but again, it is your decision.
Well, the reason I just asked because, you know, I mean, if there's a bunch of these kinds of things, like the junkyard thing, like you brought up.
Yeah.
Maybe we could handle those a little different. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the ones that we've pushed.
Well, maybe you just take those difficult ones and you do this pending ordinance change thing and use it like we currently do. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how you do that.
And you could have a separate ordinance that just says we're not doing junkyards anymore.
Yeah.
And that's takes care of it.
That's the way to handle it. I just trying to avoid nothing getting done for 6 months, waiting for something, or because we have to wait till the new thing comes, or getting a bunch of people to hurry to get their credit project to get their before the standard is raised. That's what I'm.
Yeah, I
Cause
get it.
cause then the offset is, well, then you don't get anything done for a while because everybody already got in under the old ordinance, cause they hurried.
Yeah.
So,
Again, I think most folks are gonna say, wow, this is a lot better than it used to be. So, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
John, can you speak to your experience in any one community where a new general plan of this magnitude has come out where they've been aggressive in some of the negatives? And maybe another instance where a relaxed plan was instituted and there were pluses and minuses?
Yeah, I have been involved in all of those. Um, honestly, we didn't used to have to mail out to everybody, okay? So that's sort of a different wrinkle that showed up a couple of years ago with the state law changes. It felt like we were wearing people out by the time we got to adoption, okay? So a lot of the communities that I've worked with, they just adopted and said, tomorrow you start with the new, okay? On the other hand, the way that things have changed, I would assume we're going to have an interesting open house and an interesting public hearing. Interesting being my favorite word that can mean just about anything, right? But you don't have to make this decision till later on, right? You could see how it goes. You could say, we've got a ton of input. We're gonna take another open house or something like that and then go to adoption. You could just say, hey, we want to go very relaxed and give it 6 months after adoption. So I think they're all choices. At the moment, I'm thinking we should see how it goes because I've not done many where we had to mail out to everybody. We've talked a little bit about how to handle that once that notice goes out, because a lot of people are not going to understand what this is really all about, right? And so maybe the staff has hours where they're available for phone calls, those kinds of things. We have frequently asked questions on the webpage. We have a bunch of things that can help. But I think going the relaxed way is a good way to go. Okay. Yeah, I've done overhauls in 6 different communities now, so they were all different.
I can speak that I've done overalls in other communities, and we chose the relaxed approach. It gave a lot of comfort to at the hearing that if you adopt something that somebody has a project, they're not going to be cut off the next day. And in fact, really, no one took advantage of that.
Yeah.
But it just gave comfort.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking let's ease into that decision. But from a city staff and consultant standpoint, we like the relaxed version. Okay, here's another one. Seems like across the country, there's been a little bit of another transition going from single family dwellings in general as a term to households. Since our households these days are composed of all kinds of folks living together. It's not always a family. We put together a proposal here to actually modify that discussion, that family definition, and it is in this second point here, using an interesting way of doing that, which is people could move into a house, rent a house, as long as there's no more than 3 rental contracts per the house and no more than 15 people. Initially, you think about college students. How does that work for them? But would prohibit 4 different contracts anyway in a house. to actually be legal in here as a household dwelling. I wrote in here too that, you know, that also would affect like temporary construction workers that might be working on a project somewhere. It's not just the students, but that's our obvious example, right? And then disabled people, they're in a little different category. So there's how that would actually kind of shake out. Here we are now. We can have a family that could be one person up to 3 unrelated. Doesn't seem to fit what's going on out there and actually may violate the Fair Housing Act. The proposal is you have a maximum of 15 people, all have access. Within that house, the living arrangements are up to them, but there's still that 3 rental contracts. And then you would again have reasonable accommodation for disabled folks too. But so the proposal is this one on the right-hand column there. And again, just want to see how you feel about that.
I'm confused at the three rental contracts. I don't understand how that would really work. Tell me how
So-
it works.
This isn't unusual. My daughter did this. A friend of mine's son is doing it right now, where they purchase a house and then they may rent to friends. And they've got run of the whole house, not just a room or a granny apartment, but they're offsetting their mortgage, and it makes the house then attainable because they've got tenants living with them. And it constitutes a household, but not a family, if I'm using an example that matches what you had in mind, John.
Yeah, I think
Anyway,
we're really saying we'd be dropping the family term.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm just seeing the people that don't like ADUs going crazy over this.
So an internal ADU, not the detached one, but the internal one. Well, they would only be allowed 3 contracts down there. I guess that's the way that would work.
But it sounds like it's going to allow it where it currently doesn't, or they may not want it to be allowed.
Possibly they would have up to 3 unrelated downstairs. Yeah. Or
But so,
upstairs.
anyway, what you're saying is that household structure can have a maximum of 15 people.
Yep.
No matter how big it is. Okay. Yeah.
What defines a living area? Like a bedroom, or is that, what defines a living area?
So I think we're really saying that, you know, it has to be a home that has the bathroom, the kitchen, those kinds of things. Building code does define that also, as far as occupants per room, per bedroom, and what is a dwelling really. But yeah, this is meant to get at not overwhelming the home.
Yeah, so essentially you can't rent a bedroom that has its own kitchen and bathroom, and they don't access anything else in the house, so it's really its own apartment.
I have a question about that too, John. I've been in dozens of homes where there are multiple occupants, where they're all laborers, perhaps single men, and they all live together in that single home. There's a lot of them here in our center. So currently they are in violation of this household rule. Is that what you're explaining to us?
Yeah, they likely would be, yes.
The landlords are renting a home, and then they have multiple occupants that are laborers that have come here to work that all live in the same home. So your proposed household definition would allow that to take place.
Well, it could. Having been a landlord myself for a little while, you may have multiple people on one contract, right? So you could have quite a few folks living in the home, but again, the max is the 15.
But each of those laborers couldn't have their own contract. And we have seen that, and we have had issues with that, where you're renting a house to a dozen people, and each one of them, we had one case where someone was renting the utility room as their bedroom. It was never set up for living area.
My observation is that sometimes the contracts are set up with someone who's there for a period of time and then they leave, but the other occupants just continue to pay the rent. But the lease is in another person's name who's left, and they continue. There's others that move in that continue to maintain that lease.
So obviously, this is a very difficult enforcement thing, right?
Huge.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of displacing some folks too is a problem. So this is a respond on a complaint basis kind of a thing, I would guess.
But yeah, the idea is that there's someone in charge.
Yeah.
You know, it's not 15 people each have a 15 contract, and we come in and say, why isn't anybody taking out the trash? There's no one in charge. It's kind of saying somebody has to be in charge.
Yeah.
And it's already happening in our community.
It is.
Yeah. It is, but this is an attempt to control that some more. Okay.
Yeah, I'm uneasy, and I'll explain why. You can put me to rest here a little bit, but if there's a home that's maybe it's a single level, 800 square feet, and we try to cram 15 people into this 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, and these 15 people each have a car, and so the neighborhood is going to suffer because of our ordinance in that kind of a situation. I get why the family concept is, it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is completely unenforceable unless you're going to go do DNA testing, and nobody's going to do that. But I think to say maximum 15 person everywhere seems to not work. I mean, it seems like we got to have some kind of a square footage or a number of bathrooms or something.
Yeah.
That's going to dictate how many people you can put in a space.
I think that's a good idea. Where I used to work at one time, we did have some of this kind of problem, and the houses, they were overwhelmed. Like the bathroom just full of mold because of just too many people taking a shower, and all those kinds of things. And then parking cars in the front yard too. So anyway, we'll look at that. Let's look.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. Square feet. Okay. Let's try another one. I guess I like the term SOBs better than sexually oriented businesses, but anyway, this one's pretty straightforward. Right now, we have a provision for 15% of a business, if that's devoted to sexually oriented objects and things, then it's considered a sexually oriented business, over 15%. The proposal here is that we go less. So 5% is the suggestion here, which, without knowing all your different retail businesses you have, I don't know how many more you would end up with. We do have separation requirements between them. I don't know how exactly that would work on this either, but it is something where can be an issue. So right now we have it limited to the industrial zones. Again, the 15% is in effect. The proposal is to move to 5%. Planning Commission discussed this, and they thought we ought to work on the definition a little bit, but leave the 15%. So throwing that out there, the thought that you all have on that issue. You would see more, I think, SOBs out there, because that floor area is so much smaller, right?
Can we limit the number we have in our city?
Other communities have done that. Yep. You probably need a legal opinion. I'm not sure who our legal folks are tonight, but that usually involves some sort of a study you have to do and relate some kind of crime-related issue to it in some manner. So,
We limit the title loan companies in the city, I think.
We limit bars on 25th Street. We've limited.
yeah.
What do they mean by improved definitions? What specifically are we looking at there?
I think we were updating the definition, had that conversation. I don't remember anything specific on that at the moment, but
Yeah, it's like a store, like we'll say at Adam and Eve. It falls under. We had to look under the definition of an adult video store. When our ordinances were really focused on things like Blockbuster Video. Could Blockbuster Video sell X-rated movies? And the idea was, well, if you got a little back room in Blockbuster that has your X-rated movies, that's fine. But you can't have a whole store that's X-rated movies. So it was really focused on that kind of content, not the kind of content we see now. So that's an improvement. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the whole lingerie thing is difficult because it talks about, if you're predominant reasons for businesses to sell sexually oriented materials, and it's really hard to figure out unless you get the receipts of that company and figure out, how much they sell in this kind of material versus that kind of material. It's almost impossible for us to really analyze that. So that's sort of the definitions we'd improve that make
So
it.
an example, what definition would you improve? How would it look? Just, I'm not gonna hold you to it,
Yeah.
but just give us an idea.
Yeah, we talk about adult retail rather than adult bookstores or adult video stores. That's an example. We would take out the definitions of, your predominant business is selling sexually oriented material to just a floor area devoted to sexually oriented material. So we're not looking at your receipts, we're looking at your floor plan.
I'm going to suggest we go on a field trip.
I don't wanna go.
Our code enforcement has visited everyone and yeah, but actually wouldn't be a bad idea.
The
Third, seventh.
I think some of the complaint we had from the neighbor to the Adam and Eve store brought in just, pictures and things that there's things left in the parking lot, which isn't necessarily, the owner necessarily responsible for, but should be. I don't know. There was, and then just some of the graphics on the wall and that are visible from the street. That is it. What's the level of appropriateness there? And I don't know if that definitions would speak to those types of things.
Yeah, for example, we did look at, we don't think a mannequin can really be obscene.
Yeah.
Because under the definition we have, because it's about body parts and mannequins don't have body parts. So,
yeah. The sign ordinance will.
Okay,
The sign ordinance will get at any of the graphics kind of stuff that you're concerned about. I'm aware of one court case about lingerie places that did not end up being called a sexually oriented business. So
let me ask you just a question. So,
Yep.
So we do have our SOB limited to our industrial zones.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And why do we have the except? I mean, can we do it without the except unless they have this or unless they have that? And why can't we just say, okay, that's where they go? If you've got sexually oriented product, it's got to be industrial zone. How come we can't do that?
Is Adam and Eve? Yeah.
Or, they do, unless they don't. Unless it's not legal.
That was my argument years ago when Adam and Eve brought up.
Yeah.
Why is this? Walmart
Yeah, I heard the same argument. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
You know, that is why I'm asking the question. Is there a legal compilation that requires us to allow these in different places or not?
I think you could set it at 0% and say if you do any, it's a sexually oriented business and then you have to be an industrial zone. I think you could do it. I think it's just a
I know.
practical matter of, yeah, like Walmart sells it.
Depending what you define as.
Okay, I just needed the education.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, you can't prohibit them completely from your community.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about square footages and those kind of things, I mean, it's just, it's easy to move things around and it looks like I'm gonna put all the mannequins in 85% while code is enforcement's there, and then guess what? Those mannequins move and now it's only 50% and I've already added 50% of something else. And I just think that anytime we're dealing with square footage means that we have to go back in and make sure that they're doing it right. And it just seems like it becomes then our issue as far as code enforcement versus their issue as far as either not being there at all.
Well,
Can we make, you know, the state of Utah does a great job of making state liquor stores almost invisible. Can we set something up so that these establishments are nearly invisible?
So we do have in the draft sign code, a section on that basically says they can't do anything advertising wise outside that is sexually oriented. So basically they get regular signs. That's it.
Adam and Eve, if I remember correctly, sorry. Is Adam and Eve considered, I mean, I think
thought it
by
was retail.
us, 7 of us, it would be considered a sexually oriented business, but on their business license and what they're known on the records, are they a sexually oriented business?
No, they're not.
No,
You're
they're
a
not.
retail,
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's one of those things you know
Yeah.
when you see it. Yep.
Not that I'm familiar with some of those places, but just selling lingerie, which I think is Adam and Eve, right? Again. Yeah.
Well, you brought it.
Oh, you go on a tour.
They actually have quite an array of.
I mean, I've been in the business.
Yeah,
that's
and
totally
matter of fact, I
sex
have,
positive.
Yeah.
I have no problem with going to that kind of stuff.
yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about at Smith's. I've never seen that, so,
But yeah,
anyway,
they
I don't,
have a lot,
yeah, okay.
a lot of different things.
Huh.
And they have an area that's restricted.
I've
seems
never been
more-
to that area.
Hmm?
I've never been to that area. I didn't
No.
know they had it.
They have it.
Yeah, so I need to go on a field trip, I guess.
But yeah, I
anyway.
agree. I think I'm with Ken. I think we need to really look at how we define that as a whole, because I mean, obviously they slid in under what I would consider a loophole, right? Because they did it as retail and clothing, but I don't think anyone that knows them would say that's a retail store or a clothing store or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at the legal issues a little bit closer. Because I think it is maybe a little more complex than what we perceive, I guess. So,
Yeah, because I haven't heard any complaints about the one that's right by Odyssey Elementary. It doesn't have open windows like
Yeah.
that, right? But you know, it would be considered the same type of store, and I haven't heard anybody complain about that.
Probably more than Adam and Eve.
There's more stuff in Adam and Eve.
Not that I've been.
It's totally fine if you go there. The windows are just
Yeah, let the
open.
record-
Yeah.
No, you're right though.
Or
Or
Jack
downtown.
and Jill's
we have
on
Jack and
25th
Jill's
Street.
on 25th Street.
I'm sure that they put up a Halloween thing in the window. Some people might consider that to be something not appropriate for everyone, but I think that's the challenge we're getting into, in my opinion, hearing the conversation is like, there's a wide spectrum of acceptance around these different types of things, and some people are more comfortable or less comfortable with those things, and that's where it gets a little fuzzy, I think, to try to define where you're going to draw the line.
Okay.
I mean,
I agree with what you're saying. I don't think the issue when we had people public comment, I don't think the issue was ever have them or not have them. I think it was like Adam and Eve, it was where it was located.
yeah, well, the repercussions they were having. with
The
that,
repercussions that way.
problem.
I mean that's a parking lot that all kids cut through, and I think that's a problem. So I think that's when we have other provisions so close to a school or in the school routes. I think
Yeah.
that's another item that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, the whole idea that something cannot be within this radius or this no closer than this to a school or a house of worship or whatever it is.
We can't have food trucks near a house of worship, so let's.
Oh, yeah, you can. They just have to be invited.
So I
We have
think
a
we
lot of
have the radius, right? Isn't it 1,000 foot from schools and churches? Yeah, and then we already have the industrial zones too. I don't know where the Adam and Eve is, sorry.
It's not, it's,
It's not in another industrial zone.
No?
stick around, go here where it's.
Well, and again, if it's just lingerie, it might not be considered an SOB, right? So, again, I think some of the legal things we're gonna need to check in with, so. Okay. Well, next one, how about landscaping? There's a pretty good conversation out there these days about qualifying for rebates through Weber Basin. Right now, our ordinances don't live up to what Weber Basin would expect. And there's a few reasons here on why that's been an issue. So if you bought a home that had a xeriscape, not a zero-scape, but a xeriscape philosophy, and you wanted to convert the front yard, some of that into turf, that would be contrary to the basin's ordinances. Okay. I think maybe you've seen this, but the state has done a requirement that turf areas under 8 feet need to be xeriscape, dripped, those kind of things. So that really affects park strips, okay, a lot in the city. But you've got some that are much wider than 8 feet also, so a little bit of both. But there's also small homes, small lots, front yards. How much of that should be green? Let's see. Yeah, actually that covers that next one. Sorry. So here's what is being proposed in the new draft. We would obviously follow the state law. Anything less than 8 feet needs to be dripped, xeriscape kind of a philosophy. All of that, and I'm just showing you this one home where it doesn't mean just rocks, okay? There'd be a percentage of landscape that you have to have even within that 8-foot area, okay? And that, I think obviously you're gonna want street trees for park strips and additional plants too. We can require front yards to be landscaped. And then the idea here is that if you choose to do xeriscape, then we have some standards for you to follow, okay? As opposed to you have to do xeriscape. It's if you choose to do that, okay? Does that make sense? All right, a little more flexible than I think Weber Basin would like us to be. But limits there, okay? And got a few examples here. The one on the left, you got a great tree in there, and so that tree may provide most of the plant coverage that you might be required in a xeriscape philosophy. But the rest of that doesn't look to me like it would follow any ordinances that we're thinking about, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You referred to the Weber Basin standard.
Yeah.
The state was the one that had the ordinance that allows this turf replacement thing. And Weber Basin is just facilitating. Is that correct?
So the
Did
state
they
did,
add requirements, or is it just
Yeah.
the state's requirements that Weber Basin is using?
yeah, the state did the 8 foot. Anything under that needs to be some kind of xeriscape drip philosophy. What you're seeing in the water districts around the state is they have their own set of standards. If you want to try and get the rebate, you have to meet those standards, okay?
Okay. So it's the water districts, so they've upped the game a little, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and Weber Basins are more strict than others, like Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District is less strict than what Weber Basins requirements are.
Okay, and the picture on the right is meant to show you different varieties of front yards. Okay, one of the things that a little hard to see in there, it's kind of a brown box, but we have included this trend that's happening in your city and many cities of having planter boxes out front surrounded by rocks, but you're growing your vegetables in there or flowers, whatever it might be. So most of the ordinances I've seen never cover that. So I think it's kind of neat. We're trying to get into that. So there's that same yard. The only point really of that picture on the left is, let's not forget that xeriscape does not mean no maintenance, right? This is obviously a year or two later and the weeds are growing all over the place. Probably didn't help that we had the garbage cans right there in the middle, but nevertheless, you got weeds in that yard. And that becomes an interesting issue for most folks that do some kind of rockscape, xeriscape thing. The ones on the right are just showing you some percentages of one of your developments. 30% on the two to the right on the upper photo and 37% there. We've been talking a bit about 35% turf as a maximum in a front yard. So whether that's something we want to do or not, I think our process is going to get us there. But what are your thoughts on the landscaping?
Don't forget people who live on a corner.
And if you live on a corner, that whole wraparound on the
That
side.
whole wraparound thing,
Yeah.
you know, it needs to kind of be considered as part of that
Yeah.
space, that's all.
So right now, we're proposing that side yards are included in the standards if, again, you choose to do the xeriscape kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, but the 35% would apply to that too, yeah. So,
And the 35% is the new construction ordinance that we just passed? And that was front yard
Front and side.
and side yard,
Total front and side.
okay.
In
And
front of the house, or back of the house. Back of the house front, is that what you're talking about? I don't like if it was on a,
Yeah, on a
Corner.
corner lot, it'd be in front of your house, on the street side of the house and the other side of the house,
okay,
both sides of the house.
from the front of the house forward.
No, it's on
From-
this, from the side of the house.
so that'd be from the
Oh.
front of the house all the way to the rear property line, is what you're saying.
Wouldn't count the rear yard, so.
So it's just the front of the house to the back of the house, but on the side yard. Okay. I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah, kinda, it's confusing still. I'll have to ask you guys someday when we have a pencil on it.
Yeah.
so I do have, some conversation around my neighborhood around folks wanting to take advantage of the money that Weber Basin has to offer for a conversion, understanding that there are rules for that, what's the hurdle in moving this ordinance to comply with what Weber Basin wants so that it is universally applied across the city? So everybody that chooses to move to a water-wise landscaping scenario is eligible to get that money if they want to do so.
So the big,
Better go back a slide or
Yeah.
two. It kind of explained it up
so
there.
the big hurdles are a property owner like this. If we do that, a property owner like this could not go back and put their lawn into put their yard into lawn. If that's sold and a new family comes in, they got 3 kids and they just want to, they don't want this, they want lawn. They would not be able to do that. That's the biggest hurdle. Also, the hurdle is the wide park strips. We have places in the community that have 10, 15, 12, 15-foot wide park strips. If somebody wanted to just make that grass, they wouldn't be able to. And any side yard that's like 6 feet wide can't be grass. In any, can never
So
be replaced.
maybe the two after if this house sells, because I mean, we've already said that for a new build, we're going to allow it. So a new family comes in and they decide I mean, I don't know that that is the best argument for that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, we talk about enforceability. The whole idea that you rock your entire front yard is also against code. And we find it unenforceable in the city. And if a family of 3 moved into that house and removed the rock and put the turf down, I'd actually clap and not call code enforcement. I might call code enforcement on that guy. So it's just that kind of question around it. What is really the downside? I don't see that as a downside. If somebody does that, they're doing it of their own volition with the consequences involved that they may or may not be aware of, just like people putting rock down on their totally
I talked
in
to
their yard.
John at Weber Basin about that very issue, and he said in the event that somebody wanted to revert, they'd have to pay the money back. It isn't that they could never do it; they just have to pay back the money. And my understanding is this: if they take the money, how is it identified that they? I mean, is it to go on the title? How does it work? Is that what happens? And if it's on the title, that's pretty easy for a prospective buyer to say, I got an issue with this lawn thing or this rock thing. And it's something that they weigh into whether they buy that house or not, or somebody else that doesn't have it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, my understanding is they do put something on the title about it. Our reading of what they've adopted would prohibit that person from going back. But like I said, it's how Weber Basin wrote their rules, which is different than how others have written the rules. So a possible path forward is to negotiate with Weber Basin to.
That's what I'm saying. We got to arm wrestle with those guys. That's what we got to do. Because I think we've got to find something that works for our people. And I kind of think they're motivated to do it. When I spoke with them, they sounded like.
So we have to be in the chambers here in about 5 minutes. I'm wondering if we can, since you have to come back a few times, John, maybe we can pick up here, if that's okay.
Okay.
Because I think that others will have a lot of questions around these.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll have
I don't want to rush through it just because we have to get in. So if that's okay. Then.
Which is sort of funny because the last one is the one I thought we had the longest conversation about.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, we'll be back in January and we'll have some new issues for you. We've got a little list that some of you provided to us and your council staff, and so we'll combine the issues and try and get through all those in 3 sessions in January.
Thanks. All right.
Just to be the question, are ADUs going to be part of that conversation going forward into January?
I think that the topic's open.
Okay.
We do have some standards for those?
that's what
talking
I'm
about
mostly
the
in.
detached ones.
But most specifically those, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, design standards and square footage.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Sorry, we cut you short.
Sorry.
Good conversations. All right, any other council business real quick?
I have a couple follow-up questions, just from, I was able to watch the Thursday meeting, but I'm happy we can talk about those later. But one was, a constituent reached out to me to ask about the Weber Water District charge that says Ogden City on the property tax bill, which I brought mine as an example. And then, also, when you all were talking about the paid parking starting around Christmas Village, I was wondering about the rollout of that. We had talked about it being like free for a little while and then gradually going to paid, but I just don't remember that conversation. So that might be something good to follow up on.
I don't think we've been told any of it yet, as far as parking. Any other?
I did clarify that it will not be open for the opening of Christmas Village. It's some issues with the contractors just running a little bit behind, so they hope to have it open before the end of December, but they're still kind of out there. So I do have a couple other things. Got outgoing council members. You're supposed to do some messages for them. If you could do that, Eric, we really need to get that together. Holiday party on the 4th. And then there's the Plan Ogden meeting on Thursday, the 20th, 5:30.
Yeah, I feel like it was really short notice. I'll be out of town.
All right, any other comments? All right, thanks. And Angela, you're reading the recognition, right? Okay.